YouTube says it has had enough of vaccine misinformation on its site.
And false stories from phony sites to run circles around major news outlets.
Many people don't know the difference between something real and something created to deceive them.
Open your eyes.
If you've ever had this feeling that something was terribly wrong with the world that we live in, but you couldn't figure out just what it was, then you've come to the right place. Secret societies, mystery religions, and the Illuminati have been controlling our reality since the beginning of time. But not anymore, because there is an awakening happening, and you are about to become a part of it. Wake up, because this is a call for an uprising.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show, Problem, Reaction, Solution. This is exactly how your government operates when they carry out these false flag events or psychological operations in which some cases nobody is killed at all and there's not even any real people involved other than crisis actors. When your government does this, they immediately will let you know, their calling cards, that they're involved in it. Now, we all know these things I discussed in the previous video, and all these videos that happen when there's shootings. We have manifestos, usually a trans, it plays into the left-right paradigm. And Problem, Reaction, Solution already coming out a day after the shooting in Minnesota at the church. Immediately, we're hearing the solutions to the problem. And of course, they want you to focus on gun control, but I warned in my previous video, and I've been warning for a couple of years, that it's deeper than that. They know that they're not going to be able to come into the homes of civilians and remove guns, especially at the same time that they're telling you crime is running, there's so much crime going on and people are breaking into people's homes, so people want to arm themselves to protect their homes, because it's not about being able to grab your guns. It's about being able to pass red flag laws, which will be used against us. But really what it's about is bringing in predictive policing. So while Melania Trump is suggesting her big idea to prevent future shootings, which I'll get into right now, the alt-right media, of course, is doing what it's paid to do, which is keep everybody looking at things in black and white, right? Trans shooter targets Catholic kids in mass shooting. Leftists reject prayers for the victims, right? This is how you keep people stuck with simple-minded thinking, playing on their emotions, angering Christians, angering conservatives because the Democrats are rejecting prayers, right? That was part of the deliberate narrative that was out there. The mayor made sure he said that we don't want your prayers, right? This is a common narrative that we continue to hear from Democrats across the country, right? Anytime there's a shooting, a parent comes out and says, we want your guns. We have the political figures talking about how we don't want your prayers. We need gun laws to be put in place. And they focus in on that while they don't pay attention to what Donald Trump is doing right in front of our eyes, which is bringing in AI governance, which is bringing in the surveillance state. So this is what the alt-right media does while these events occur. They don't talk about them potentially being false flags. They don't talk about them potentially being fake. They talk about these simple-minded narratives to keep people angry. It was a trans, and the trans went to the Catholic school, and he targeted Christians, and he had a picture of Jesus on his, shooting display that he practiced, target practice on, and he was anti-Israel, God's chosen people, and roar, roar, roar. Let's go after the Democrats, right? Meanwhile, right in front of your face, Melania Trump has suggested what her big idea is to prevent future shootings. Surprise, surprise. Melania's shattered by the senseless and depraved Minnesota school shooting, and she's calling for preemptive intervention. Now, you're wondering what preemptive intervention is? It's exactly what I continue to warn about. Precrime Predictive Policing, brought to you by Palantir, which is already yoked up with the Trump administration and which will be bringing in pre-crime. That's what the plan is. Not only do you have AI surveillance in schools where they could detect if somebody comes into the school with a gun or not, and most people will say, well, that's a good idea, we need to have that. But on top of that, they're going to use predictive policing. So what you talk about on the internet, the types of things you look at, well, the government could come in there and arrest you before anything happens. And of course, they'll say they solved and stopped a crime from occurring because it never happened because they arrested the person beforehand, right? Of course, this is all in the name of Minority Report and 1984 type of thinking. But here's what Melania Trump posted out after the shooting. The tragic mass killing in Minnesota illuminates, very interesting term to use, right? Illuminates, Illuminati, illuminates the need for preemptive intervention in identifying potential school shooters. Early warning signs are often evident, with many individuals exhibiting concerning behaviors and making violent threats online prior to their actions. To prevent future tragedies, it is crucial we look into behavioral threat assessments across all levels of society, beginning in our homes, extending through school districts, and of course, social media platforms. Being aware of these warning signs and acting quickly can save lives and make American communities safer. You might as well put predictive policing, but for these people to actually understand what she's saying is pre-crime, she would have to write out, what we need to do is have pre-crime, like in the movie Minority Report, to make them go, wait a minute, Melania Trump and the Trump administration is calling for pre-crime and predictive policing. She's literally saying that in this statement. She's saying that we need to have preemptive intervention. We need to identify potential school shooters. The early warning signs are online, which means we need to be monitored and tracked online. And if you really connect the dots, you'll see in one of the articles that's out there what was posted online, because they were giving us a breakdown of the killer, right? This is one of the new things they've been doing the last couple of years. What we know about the shooter. Every time there's a shooting event, you may notice the pattern that after a couple of hours, the articles come up and they just go, what we know about the shooter, right? Well, here's what we know. What was posted online? You could read who he was posting on his YouTube channel titled Robin W. So it even has his name, which is who's making a YouTube channel with their name. But it says the videos never show the face of the person speaking, right? Remember the big talk about ending anonymity on the internet, of course, because they want to bring in a digital ID and all these little things that you see going on right now with YouTube, with age verification. These are all little nuggets that they're putting in place to plant seeds in your mind to condition you into a digital ID without telling you, we're going to have a digital ID. We're going to track and monitor everything you say online, because people don't want to feel like they're getting smothered with government overreach, but they are. So instead, they're doing little things to make you more, to become, if you're compliant to that and you're compliant to this, then the more that they take, then eventually you'll just give in. When they say, well, you're not going to be allowed to be anonymous anymore. Oh, yeah, everyone's got to show their face, right? That's one of the huge things. Obviously, I'm somebody who has dealt with that, right? You can't avoid, they don't want you to be anonymous because they want to be able to target you and have target campaigns against you. They don't want anybody speaking anonymously because they want to be able to say, look, this person spoke on this platform. We ban them. They can't go back on that platform. This person spoke on that platform. We should go after that person. This person said that. This person should be arrested for having that opinion. This is what the future holds. It's an insane world that they want to actually create. So Melania Trump then even says it's crucial we look into behavioral threat assessments. Behavioral threat assessment. So behavioral control as well as behavioral threats, which again, behavioral control you'll see momentarily, because of course the shooter happened to put BlackRock on one of his weapons because, that makes perfect sense. The writing on his ammunition and everything is all over the place. It would actually identify more of somebody who's a Manchurian candidate who's completely lost it, who's completely acting through alters, because some of the stuff he wrote is Republican, like kill all pedos, and the other stuff he writes is, of course, the anti-Semitism stuff, which is what this is really about. This is really about passing more laws online about hate speech, anti-Semitism, because they don't want you to be able to question Israel. They don't want you to figure out and connect the dots with what the synagogue of Satan actually is and how the state of Israel is not what they claim to be, as foretold and warned to us in Scripture. So he says, beginning in our homes, through the school districts, of course, social media platforms, they want full-on surveillance, and they're not talking about coming and grabbing your guns. They're talking about having the ability to come and arrest you, kind of like we see everything going on with the ICE agents, right? Where ICE could show up at your home because you posted online something against Israel, and if you're somebody who's pro-Israel, you won't care if somebody gets arrested who's anti-Israel, because at this point, the people are so unhinged that they don't care about anybody's human rights that they don't agree with, because they're narcissists. Most people have become narcissists thanks to social media and the selfie culture, that if somebody has a difference of opinion, they're like, good, let the ICE agents arrest these people for no reason. Let the ICE agents go after free Palestinians because they're really terrorists, right? And of course, this will eventually be used on Christians, but they're so dumb in today's world, thanks to their 501c3 churches, thanks to really the behavior that we've seen Christians partake in here with the MAGA culture of, white nationalism. They don't even realize, where in the Bible is it talking about America and God, right? They're just more America than they are actually God. They're more worshiping of this country than they are of worshiping our Father in heaven. And it's sickening, right? We know that they put Donald Trump on a pedestal above Jesus Christ for the most part. These churches talk about Trump as if he's Jesus, and these people go along with it. And they bow down at the altar of Trump, as we've seen with the golden statue, aka the golden calf that they've rolled around the United States of America. So some of the stuff that he wrote on his gun is exactly what we could expect in the future, right? Sponsored by BlackRock. That's the government giving you the middle finger, of course, because they're referencing the shooter that they didn't expect you to notice was actually in a BlackRock commercial, who supposedly took a shot at Donald Trump, even though Larry Fink and Donald Trump are best buddies and have been for a long time, right? That's, of course, because this event was completely fabricated, brought to you by, sponsored by, and paid for by BlackRock. So the guy puts sponsored by BlackRock on his gun, and then people out there kind of just go, well, what's he trying to get? Well, if we're going to have these types of laws in place where they're going to identify your behavior online, one of the things you will be able to question is BlackRock and Vanguard and all these other companies that are obviously responsible for everything that's going on in the world, of course, working with the state of Israel and the Mossad. Some of the other things on his gun, 6 million wasn't enough. I mean, it shows you that 6 million wasn't enough. It wasn't even close to 6 million. In fact, it might be closer to 0 than 6 million, but that's another thing you're not going to be allowed to question in the future, is the number that they tell you of the people that supposedly were killed. But they aren't going to talk about the Armenian genocide, right? When how many Christians were brutally murdered? A lot more than that, right? They never talk about that genocide, do they? No. What else do we have on there? Israel must fall like a phoenix will rise from the ashes. We rise from the ashes. So even putting in Illuminati, a New World Order phrase, the phoenix rising, of course, is very common in the occult circles. So he puts that in there along with Israel will fall or must fall. He has extra thick gas on one of the gas canisters that he used, and of course kill Donald Trump. So they wanted you to see all these photos because they want to get it into your head about the things that are being posted online where we could get in there ahead of time and prevent it from happening. That's what they want in everyone's mind. This guy posted this on YouTube. It was there for the world to see for a couple of days. And then, of course, because he was anonymous, nobody was quite sure who he was who was posting it, because we got to get rid of that. And then we have to look at it and say, well, why didn't somebody get in there ahead of time? Since he was posting all this anti-Semitic stuff, we knew that he likely was a bad, dangerous person, so we should arrest him just based on him questioning the Holocaust. And then he put kill Donald Trump, so he automatically should be arrested because that's a threat to the president. So what can we do about it? Well, we can put in Minority Report like Precrime, right? First, Melania Trump shared in a social media post her suggestion of how to best prevent mass shootings, like the attack in Minneapolis on Wednesday. Trump suggested intervention to prevent crimes. It appears to be a nod in the Minority Report direction, but also did not mention arming schools, a regular Republican response to gun tragedies, because that's not what the answer is for them. This entire AI governance is a movement into a surveillance state, okay? So while Democrats are yelling, we don't want the teachers to be armed, we don't want armed guards in the school, and the Republicans are yelling back, we need armed teachers, nobody's paying attention to what they really want, because they're just going to slide in with their pre-crime and their AI, infrastructure inside of the school system, right? That's what this is all about. And it's all about Palantir and their red flag laws once again. So all we've heard about since Trump has come into power is this stuff with ICE, right? ICE is detaining illegals. Everybody has been in the psychosis, the psyop that they've created over the last 4 years of crimes running, criminals are running free. They're crossing the border at will. All these people are being allowed in because they want to vote for Democrats. The Democrats are letting them in, all this stuff, all make believe, right? So now that Trump's in power, they want them all gone. So ICE has come to the rescue, right? ICE is saving the day. They're getting all these illegals out. Every day we hear about how they're cleaning up the streets, they're getting rid of the illegals, clouded in a mystery how ICE became a rogue agency that does Trump's bidding. And of course, we know that ICE has a deep partnership with Palantir because ICE is using Palantir's surveillance tracking system to find illegals and then apprehend them and remove them from the country. Remember, I talked about this a week ago, how apropos, right? Gotham Predictive Policing refers to the use of Palantir technology. Gotham software platform by law enforcement agencies analyzes large volumes of data and predicts criminal activity. The system uses AI and machine learning to find patterns and link suspects, locations, and events, guiding police resources to targeted areas or individuals, right? And Trump taps Palantir, right? I've showed you this already. Palantir is compiling the data on Americans. They already are. Palantir is an arm of the Mossad. It is an arm of the CIA. Okay, they are deeply, intertwined already in all the stuff that we do. They're already monitoring everything. And Trump, you might have heard last week that the U.S. has taken a stake in Intel. This is the new stuff they're getting away with, admitting that America is really a corporation, which, they could just tell you everything at this point. And these people are so stuck in the MAGA psychosis that they're not paying attention to the fact that these guys are all compromised. They're working together. They're working with corporations. Corporations are the ones who are trying to, implement the behavioral control using the government, censorship and everything else that they're allowing. But Trump his administration has put a stake, or now has a stake in Intel, the chip company. And you may have heard that Palantir, recently landed a $10 billion Army software contract, but they're now openly talking about, as of this week, that Trump should take stake in Palantir so Palantir could become official government entity. It already is, right? But just announcing it to people. Because Palantir is going to be the face of Big Brother. That's what it's going to be. It's going to be the face of Precrime. They're going to turn it into a hero. They're going to take Palantir and they're going to market at you as if Palantir is stopping crime. Palantir is saving children at schools. Palantir is getting the illegals off the streets. Murder rates are down. It's going to look just like this. This is what they aired in Minority Report. Okay, I'm going to play it for you now. This is what they'll air something very similar to this on television. And they'll do it over and over and over. It's no different than the pharmaceutical ads where everybody goes, oh, yeah, big pharma. Look, I can have my life back. I don't have to have erectile dysfunction anymore. Look how this wonderful couple walking on the beach, and they read you 1,000 side effects, including dropping dead on the spot. This is the same thing. It's just a nice background song. They talk about how all these people could have been murdered, but they weren't murdered because Big Brother stepped in and saved the day. This is how they'll market Palantir to people with Precrime, and people will think that it's wonderful. Just imagine them putting in some of the schools and how these put a 2-year-old on there and say, I would have been killed if it wasn't for Palantir intercepting this psychopath online who was talking about anti-Semitism and was a fan of the Columbine kids. And they went and arrested him beforehand. I would be dead if it wasn't for them. This is what you'll see on television.
Imagine a world without murder.
I lost my best friend.
I lost my aunt.
I lost my dad.
I lost my father.
I lost my wife.
Just 6 years ago, the homicide rate in this country had reached epidemic proportions. It seemed that only a miracle could stop the bloodshed. But instead of one miracle, we were given 3, the precognitives. Within just 1 month under the Precrime program, the murder rate in the District of Columbia was reduced 90%.
They were going to be waiting for me in the car.
He was going to rape me.
I was going to be stabbed.
Right here.
Within a year, Precrime effectively stopped murder in our nation's capital.
In the 6 years we've been conducting our little experiment, there hasn't been a single murder.
And now Precrime can work for you.
We want to make absolutely certain that every American can bank on the utter infallibility of this system, and to ensure that what keeps us safe will also keep us free.
Precrime? It works.
It works.
It works.
It works.
It works. It works.
On Tuesday, April 22nd, vote yes on the National Precrime Initiative.
So that's what the future looks like. All they got to do is market it to these people, and they'll eat it up. Put a couple of 5-year-olds and 3-year-olds in kindergarten class who were going to head to school that day. But if the government didn't, these are the psyops you're going to hear. You're going to hear like the government intercepted a guy who had a plan. He had a blueprint. He had a notebook. He was going to go and shoot up this school on this day. And thanks to the government and Palantir, they were able to go to his home ahead of time. And of course, this will be fake. The kid wouldn't even exist. It'll be George Glass. And they'll go to his home and they'll arrest him. They'll show us some kid on TV and they'll send him to Israel and we'll never hear from him again. And they'll tell us how he had a blueprint. He had all these magazines. He had these guns that he got illegally or he got from dad. He had targets. He had notebooks. He had all this hate speech. He had anti-Semitism. He had conspiracies about BlackRock and the state of Israel. And he talked about the government weaponizing weather and all these types of things. And they arrested him the day before. The day before. Then they'll go and they'll interview the kids at school. And the kids at school will say what? They'll say, we found out what happened. We'd all be dead if it wasn't for Palantir. Thank you, Palantir. Thank you, Big Brother, for saving our lives. That's what they're going to do. Can you not see it already? How they're going to do this and how they're going to market this? And of course, we know the blueprint for what a psychopath and a dangerous threat online is. It's going to be people like myself. They're going to say that we're the threat because we're not kissing Palantir's rear end and we're not kissing Donald Trump's rear end and we're not kissing Big Brother's rear end. We're questioning Big Brother. Like in China, if you question, the constraints that they have on their civilians, you don't get to fly. You don't get your bank account anymore. You don't get to live in society. You don't get to buy food, right? Forcing behaviors to change, like Melania says, right? What did Melania say? It's crucial we look into behavioral threat assessments. Well, they would assume you're a threat and I'm a threat because we don't bend over for them and we don't bow down and we're not playing their left-right paradigm game. So yeah, you question 6 million people. Oh, that's a threat. They'll tell these people that. And look how people are acting now. No one's going to defend any of us anymore. Those days are long gone. I thought, when censorship was coming, that people out there on the left would defend someone like me because I'm not a MAGA supporter. I just speaking my mind. And what happened? All those channels out there, all those loser channels put up content. Let's go flag him at this point. Let's go flag him there. Let's get him taken down. Oh, he's anti-Semitic. Let's take him down. Now, all those people are labeled anti-Semites because they're on Palestine's side, right? How amazing this entire psychosis is working. But those people, nobody cares about anybody else's rights anymore. They care about their own. So if somebody has a difference of opinion than you, because of the seesaw, just like I talked about when censorship began, where conservatives felt they were getting oppressed and they weren't allowed to talk about the vaccine and Dems could say whatever they want. Well, now it's the other way, right? And now they are calling for Democrats to get their channels canceled and for them to get arrested for having a difference of opinion. And this is the world we live in now. So if you don't agree with people, you have a different mindset. People want you canceled. They want you to lose your free speech. And look, in 5 years from now, they're going to want you thrown in jail for having a difference of opinion. So if you speak against Israel, Christians are going to go throw them in jail. And you can say, well, I'm a Christian too. They'll say, no, you're not the right kind of Christian because you're not supporting Israel, even though the book of Revelation clearly tells us that the ones who claim to be are not. They are of the synagogue of Satan. Of course, we could all show them the blueprint to the Khazarian tribes, and they won't listen to any of it because their 501c3 church, which is funded by the government, is telling them to bow down to the synagogue of Satan. So this whole thing is it's really the upside down that we're living in. But we have to pay attention to the predictive policing. I warned about it. I've been warning about it. These shootings, everybody's going to pay attention to the guns and the gun grab. The government is not going to be able to grab your guns. They're going to be able to pass red flag laws. And Christian conservatives are going to be okay with it because they're going to think that these laws are going to get the guns out of the hands of trannies. That's the point. But eventually, when Gavin Newsom is put in power, or one of these insane Democrats, they're going to flip that. And they're going to say that trans people are not mental health people. They are not considered red flag threats. What's considered a red flag threat are these anti-government people online who speak about us using weather to light Los Angeles, or using smart meters to burn Los Angeles to the ground, or using directed energy weapons to burn California to the ground, or creating tornadoes and hurricanes to wipe out these locations, right? They'll be considered a threat, then the red flag laws will be used against you, but they need to get Christian conservatives on board with it now, and they are, because it's happening in a church. How convenient. And it's a trans shooter. How convenient. And they're pro-Palestine, anti-Israel. How convenient. Making them want what the government wants them to want, and once these are in place, these laws are never going away. They're never going to be removed. They're going to be used against all of us. And it's not about getting the guns again. It's about a combination of the red flag laws and bringing in predictive policing. Where we're told that AI knows everything. AI is so smart. AI can figure this stuff out. AI could solve crimes before they happen. Everyone will be on board because all it takes is a few false flags and a few psyops. All it takes is some fake stories on the news about how they did a test run with Palantir and they stopped a murder from happening at a school. A mass shooting was stopped thanks to Palantir, and you'll hear more and more about it, and these people will think it's real. They will never think the news is manufactured, and then they'll say, we need Palantir everywhere. We need it put in all these places. Palantir is here to help. They're here to save the day, right? Put their stock up to $1,000 a share. Everybody out there cheers Palantir. It's looked at as a friendly corporation like Apple or Google, and again, all the sheeple will bow down to it and think that it's wonderful because they won't hear of fake government manufactured shootings on the news anymore, right? Once the government stops creating these shootings at the schools, you won't hear about them anymore, right? And if one does happen naturally, like a real one, they'll tell you the only reason it happened was because Palantir technologies were not being used to stop it from happening. And everyone will say, well, why wasn't it? Let's get it there in that state or that city, that could serve, wherever it is. And that'll stop it. And then you won't hear about it anymore. And that's how it works. Right? Since they manufacture and create these events, once they stop telling you they happen, they'll tell you who the hero is, and everybody will say, great, wonderful. And they'll never put on the news stories about people like me and you getting arrested for no reason and getting thrown in jail, other than to say, well, there was this guy I called for an uprising. He was arrested for pre-crime because he was speaking against Israel, and they'll make up stories that he was armed and he was going to start an uprising, and we threw him in jail. And everyone will go, yay! Because as long as it's not them getting thrown in jail, they don't care anymore because the world has grown cold and the world has grown really, really dumb. I thank everybody for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.